Yes. We've seen the same until George Washington of the U.S. There hasn't ever been an independent candidate who has ever been successful at becoming president, even in the U.S., an advanced democracy. Ghana certainly cannot be ready at this time for a person whose track record we do not know, whose organization abilities we cannot affirm.
Look, the U.S. cannot be compared to Ghana. The U.S., they don't have vigilantism. They don't have the polarized or tribalized. Tribalized in this African sort of narrative is one of the dangerous things to actually talk about. If we don't take care, today we talk about tribes, be it Ashanti and Ewe and the like, or a Northerner, for example. We must be very careful. We are all here in Africa, so let's bring it to African context. Let's not talk about U.S. U.S. somehow they have developed. Africa is growing. Should we allow this type of politics to fester and grow? We are treading on dangerous waters. We look at Liberia, for example. We look at Rwanda. Rwanda genocide was based on tribal issues. We sit on the sidelines and allow that to grow in this country? No. So yes, democracy in the Western world is a different ballgame. We must probably structure our democracy according to our cultural practices and our cultural mores. We cannot absorb anything from the West and accept that lock, stock, and barrel. Yes, everything must be tailor-made. Yes, there are some good issues from the West. We must absorb that, but we must remodel it to suit our culture. This is what is paramount. We seem to absorb everything and accept it and enforce it without actually delving into the history of those reasons why they formed those laws. And this is what we must look at it seriously in this country. Right. I'm not saying democracy is not good. They are selling goods about it, but yes, we must take some and add ours to it. We must actually craft an African democracy, if I may use that word. Who knows? That might even be better. We had our chieftaincy rules. We somehow have relegated that to the sideline and absorb the Western world, which is actually diminishing our chieftaincy rules and regulations. Those days, in our lifetime, the chiefs were respected. Somehow, we told them they didn't matter, and they are not allowed to even participate in governance. I would challenge anybody that, look, our chieftaincy rules are probably better than democracy. So we must look at it seriously.
I'll ask two more questions. We are within the 20 minutes we have, and let's left with about 3.
Sure.
And then after that, one of the collaborators to this event, the GII, have sent in some questions.
Sure.
I'll read out one of their questions to you before Thelma then introduces the questions from the general public. So let's talk about, and you just ended up on the issue of chieftaincy, which means that you believe in the Ghanaianness of whatever it is that we do. I remember in 2008, you were very vociferous, you were vocal in condemning, so to speak, the sale of Ghana Telecom to Vodafone.
The control of their systems, our assets, our airwaves, and the like. It's as basic as that. No African can go to China and own China Telecom full stack and barrel. So yes, I'm certainly not opposed to any partnerships, but certainly the government must hold control, and all Ghanaians must hold the majority share, so that the wealth creation that we seek so dearly to our hearts must recircle into the system of this country. This is what I stand for. Look, the foreign investor is coming here for profit-making venture. He comes in, build whatever it is, we help him to build. He takes his profit and takes home. Why can't we allow Ghanaians to make the profits? The government as a catalyst, the government as a leader, the government as a facilitator must facilitate Ghanaians to own those industries. This is what I'm talking about.
The various contracts that have already been signed should you become president. For example, on the Jubilee Fields, it's controlled by foreign companies. You talk about, yes.
I'm not going to nationalize or take over or change anything. What I've said in public is that in any contract, be it international and the like, there are terms and conditions. Meaning, I'm telling you, if you look at those terms and conditions, most likely no terms have been fulfilled in its entirety. So you as a sovereign country or you as a partner to that entity, you have the right to revisit that contract depending on the market conditions, be it COVID, be it natural disasters, be it whatever terms and conditions you need. You have the right to revisit the contract and say, look, you are not meeting the terms that we put forth, therefore I have also the right to come back and relook. Now, as far as the oil fields, we may not have the technology to go drilling 50 miles in the middle of the ocean. So yes, I'm not delusional enough to say, look, we must do so. This is why it means
even the energy sector. Dumso ended because car power ship, Ameri, and all the rest came in. Ghanaians couldn't have handled that problem on ours.
I believe we know how much we pay for that.
We're paying $25 million a month for energy that we don't use.
A month, exactly. I'm glad you raised this. I was just about to raise that. $25,000 million US dollars a month. Quantify that over how many years that we've had the car power issue. That $25 million could have built a power plant, an independent power plant in this country. Call it, for example, a combined cycle power plant, which is what I have advocated in this country. For example, Sorpen oil field, I've said in certain areas, the Sorpen oil field was discovered 50 years ago. It's still flaring natural gas, burning natural gas in the middle of, 2 miles away from the Sorpen shore.
So in short, sir, will you review these contracts? And whilst answering the question, bear in mind that we have spent some huge amounts of money paying judgment debts.
Yes. In our policy, Abdul, I called for a centralized contract clearinghouse. All people in Ghana listening to me, there must be a central clearinghouse for all government contracts in this country. Resident at the presidency, so we can actually appoint people, learned people to review those contracts. No minister sitting in a ministry building will have the autonomy to sign a contract in this country any longer. Look, you can negotiate, but bring that contract to the central clearinghouse to be vetted.
Public Procurement Authority has been established already and is basically doing what you are suggesting now. It's not novel. What you are suggesting is not new, sir.
What I said was, I'm going further. Most legal entities in the country that I've known do not carry liability insurances for omissions or commissions for their partnerships or actions on that contract. So we have an entity where a minister will sign a contract secretly, because most of the time the so-called Right to Information Act that was passed is not being enforced. So if you go to a minister and ask him for that document, you are met with roadblocks. For Ghanaians to wake up one day to find that the contract that was signed is either fraudulent or there's some issues that are not able to be met. So the so-called foreign investor who came in not by performance now turns around and sue the Ghana government for judgment debt. That must stop.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah. This is why I'm saying, look, with the central clearinghouse, we are going to engage because Ghanaian insurance liability is probably not developed to its fullest. So we can avail ourselves to the foreign companies, be it in Switzerland, England, France, or the like. Those law firms are well heeled. The liability insurance policy are there for omissions and commission. So we will engage those lawyers or law firms to oversee. Once they approve or vet, after vetting, we will engage them to sign and put a stamp of approval for it to make sure that contract meets its full right.
Thank you very much.
In case there is any wrongs, we will sue that company so that we are not liable for any judgment that is illegal in this country.
Right.
This one must be done.
And briefly, Thelma will come in very soon, but the Ghana Integrity Initiative has sent in a question,
sure.
And I'm reading it verbatim. It says, the European Commission adopted a new delegated regulation on 7th May 2020 relating to developing countries with strategic deficiencies in their anti-money laundering laws as well as counter-terrorism financing regimes. Ghana happens to be one of the countries listed to have weak regulatory framework on anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing. One of such regulations is criminalization of illicit financial flows and unexplained wealth. Now the question is, what is the position of, well, you are an independent candidate, so what's your position on criminalization of illicit financial flows and unexplained wealth? If you are in support of the position, and when will you get it done when you are voted into power?
I'm glad they've passed that law. Ghana must sign to that effect immediately. When I become the president, day one, I'm going to support that and I'll sign that into law. I'm glad they have put that law. So therefore, Ghana is going to form partnerships or relationships so that those stolen money, the ill-gotten wealth, the corrupt practices in this country, siphoning money out of this country to offshore countries, so partnering with them to hide those money in offshores will be brought back into this country. Because once we form that relationship, they are also obligated to investigate those banks and the bank account to bring that money back into Ghana. They must be jailed, they must be punished in this country.
Are you assuming that money does not come in illegally, that it only goes out through illegal means?
Most of it either by drugs or by corrupt practices. People signing contracts, fraudulent contracts, and collecting money that they don't deserve. For Ghanaians, the taxpayers' money to be on the hook for projects that are not completed. I mean, this is part of the problem, that we are not even able to finance our debt. Our debt in this country is running in billions. We must look seriously and say, look, look, the offshore companies are